It was March 19th, 2025, and the city felt alive with a strange buzz, like everyone was holding their breath, waiting for something. Inside the presidential palace, a plain building with chipped white walls and rusty gates, Captain Ibrahim Traoré stood by a window. His green army clothes hung loose on his thin body, faded from years of wear. He was only 37, the youngest leader in the world, but his dark eyes looked heavy, like they carried stories of pain and fight. If you believe in the future of Africa, if you believe that change can come from within, share this story. Let the world hear the truth they're not showing on the news. And please, take a sec to subscribe and turn on notifications. Villagers with red dirt on their feet walked next to town kids in torn jeans. They'd all heard the big news. Traoré had told Saudi Arabia no. They'd offered to build 200 mosques, but he said he didn't want them. In Burkina Faso, where people prayed every day and faith was everything, this hit like a loud clap. Some were angry, saying he'd forgotten God. Others thought he was bold, a hero. But Traoré didn't see it that way. To him, it was about life, keeping his people fed, safe, and strong. The room smelled old, like dusty wood and sweat. A wobbly fan spun slowly above, pushing warm air around. Papers on the desk fluttered, lit by a small lamp that flickered like it might die any second. Traoré ran his fingers over a map on the wall. It showed Burkina Faso, big stretches of dry land with red dots marking where bad guys had attacked villages, leaving blood and ashes. His mind raced. Mosques are special, yes, I pray too. But what good is a mosque if my people have no food? If kids get sick and die? If they sleep outside in the rain? He squeezed his hand into a fist, his skin tight over his knuckles. I love God, but I'm a leader first. I have to choose life. God will know my heart. The door squeaked open, and Lieutenant Aziz Pakmogda stepped in. He was skinny, with a long scar across his cheek from a fight years back. Aziz was always near Traoré, his best friend and guard. "Captain," he said, keeping his voice low, "the Saudi ambassador's helper is here, and a lady from France who writes for papers. They're asking to see you now." Traoré turned, his eyes sharp like a hawk's. "Let them wait. I'll talk when I'm good and ready." Aziz stayed still for a second, then said, "The people outside, they're shouting your name. Some brought millet and goats to say thanks, but others don't understand. They think you're turning away from God." Traoré's mouth curved into a small, tired smile. "God doesn't need more places to pray. My people need homes, schools, jobs." Earlier that day, the Saudi man had come without warning. He was tall, dressed in white robes that flowed like water, his shoes shiny like they'd never touched dirt. He'd brought others with him, all fancy and quiet. Over the phone, their prince had spoken to Traoré, his voice smooth and sure, saying the mosques were a gift for Ramadan, a way to show they were brothers. Traoré had listened, sitting still, his face blank, but inside his chest burned. 200 mosques, he thought. 200 big buildings while my kids learn under trees, while moms die on the ground having babies, while men beg for work. A gift? No, it's a rope around our necks. They'd met in the yard outside, the sun blazing down like it wanted to cook them. Traoré stood with his arms crossed, staring at the man. "We're thankful, brother," he'd said, his voice steady but hard. "But we've got enough mosques already. What we need is schools for our kids, places to fix the sick, and jobs so people can eat. Build those, and we'll cheer for you all the way to Mecca." The Saudi man's smile slipped, his eyes getting small. "The prince says faith holds us together," he said, sounding sharp. "My people are together," Traoré fired back. "It's their lives that are breaking apart." Now, as night crept in, that talk stuck with him. A young soldier, maybe 20, rushed into the room, his gun bouncing on his back. "Captain, the French lady, she's pushing past the guards. She says she'll write bad things about you if you don't talk. Calls you a mean boss." Traoré's jaw got tight. "Mean boss? Let her write it. The West has called us worse since I was a kid." Aziz laughed a little. "She'll make it sound bad anyway." That's what they do. Outside, the shouting got louder, like a song with a big beat. Traoré stepped onto the balcony, the air thick with smells, wood smoke, roasted corn, and sweat from the crowd below. Hundreds of people stood there. Farmers in ragged shirts, moms with babies tied to their backs, boys waving sticks like they were playing war. Among them was Amina, an old lady from Bondokui, where Traoré grew up. Her face was full of lines, like a map of hard years. She held a basket of grain, her feet cracked and bloody from walking miles to get here. Outside, the streets were full of noise. "You've left us behind, Ibrahim," she shouted, her voice cutting through the noise. "Mosques are our spirit. What are you giving us instead?" Traoré leaned over the rail, his shadow stretching out long. "Amina," he said, soft but clear, "I'm building for your grandkids, a school so they can read, a place to make them well when they're sick, a job so they don't go hungry. Do you want them praying in a pretty place while they die with nothing?" Her eyes got wet. torn between anger and something softer. The crowd made sounds. Some said yes, some shook their heads. No. A boy in a worn-out soccer shirt yelled, "What about the bad guys? Will jobs stop their guns?" "No," Traoré said, his voice real and rough. "But jobs give you something to protect. When bellies are empty, people lose hope. And that's what the bad guys want." In the shadows, the French lady, Claire, wrote fast in her little book. Her yellow hair glowed in the lamp's light. She whispered to her helper, Soliman, a tall local guy with long arms. "He's taking a big chance," she said. "Ace, saying no to the Saudis, saying no to big money people. He's got no friends left." Soliman shrugged, his eyes on Traoré. "Or he's making us free." Claire stopped writing. "Free from what?" "From being pushed around," he said, simple and sure. Back inside, Traoré sat down hard, the chair squeaking under him. Aziz poured water from a clay pot, the cool drops shining like little stars. "You're like a big tree, Captain," he said, half smiling. "Roots deep in the ground, but the wind's blowing strong." Traoré took the cup, feeling the cold against his skin. A big tree, he thought, tall and tough, but all alone. Will I stand when the storm hits, or will I fall down? He saw Burkina Faso like that tree, full of good things like fruit, but hurt by dry land, fights, and outsiders taking what's theirs. He'd watched gold disappear into foreign hands, cotton leave before it could be made into clothes, kids fade away because there wasn't enough to eat. "I don't care if they hate me," he said, his voice low and gritty. "I won't beg for little bits when we can make our own way." Aziz nodded, but his scar moved, like he was worried. "The Saudis won't forget this. The West won't either. Let them remember," Traoré said. "Let them know Burkina Faso isn't something they can buy." Night fell hard, covering the city like a blanket. Stars popped out, bright like grains of millet scattered across the dark. Traoré went back to the window, the shouts outside turning into a soft hum. In his head he saw a better time. Fields green with food, places full of work and noise, kids laughing with books in their hands. It was a dream that could break easy, but it felt strong, like the wind that blows dust across the land. He thought about his village, Bondokui, where he'd run barefoot as a boy, chasing goats and dreaming big. Back then, he'd seen old men pray in small mosques made of mud, their voices rising to the sky. Faith mattered. He felt it deep in his bones. But he'd also seen those same men cry when their crops died, when their kids got sick with no help nearby. Faith feeds the soul, he thought. But we need more than that to live. Down in the yard, a little girl stood apart from the crowd. She was maybe 8, her dress patched and dirty, holding a stick doll she'd made herself. She looked up at Traoré, her big eyes catching the starlight. "Will we have a house, Captain?" she called, her voice small but brave. Traoré's chest hurt, like something squeezed it. He knelt at the balcony's edge so she could see him better. "Yes," he said, loud enough for her to hear. "A house for you, and a school, and a job for your mom. That's my promise." She smiled, shy but real, and ran back to her mother in the crowd. Traoré stood up slow, his legs heavy. That girl, she was why he said no to the mosques. She was why he fought. Inside, Aziz lit a new lamp, the flame dancing in the dark. "You're stirring things up, Captain," he said. "The elders in the villages might not like it. They love their mosques." "They'll see," Traoré said. "When their kids come home with learning, when they don't die from a cough, they'll see." Aziz scratched his scar. "And if they don't, then I'll carry that too," Traoré said, quiet but firm. He stepped outside again, the cool night air brushing his face. The crowd was thinning now, some heading home with their baskets and hopes. Amina stayed, sitting on the ground, her grain beside her. She looked up at him, her old eyes searching. "You're still our son, Ibrahim," she said, softer this time. "Don't forget us." "Never," he answered, his voice thick. "You're why I do this." She nodded, slow, then stood and walked away, her shadow long in the dust. Traoré watched her go, feeling the weight of her words. He lifted his hand to the sky, fingers spread wide, a promise to the old ones who'd built this land, to the kids who'd grow up on it. "This is my prayer," he thought, not in stone, but in sweat, in work, in hope. The lamp inside went out, leaving everything dark, but in that black, Traoré felt a spark, a tiny, stubborn light. Burkina Faso would get up, not lifted by others, but standing on its own tired, strong feet, and he'd lead them through the noise, through the doubt, through whatever came next.